Don't, don't open that car door. You'll die." The little girl's voice trembled, almost swallowed by the freezing wind of a fateful night. But what made the powerful man stop wasn't just the warning, it was the foreign language she had just spoken, as if she had heard something no one was ever meant to understand. Mafia boss Vincent Moretti, a man who had never paused for anyone, for the first time in his life, lowered himself in front of an unknown child, on a street filled with danger under silent watching eyes. A frail, starving little girl was the only one who dared to stand between him and death. But how could a child selling bracelets on the sidewalk know the exact moment his death would come? And even more terrifying, she heard it, in a language that even the men planning to kill him never expected anyone to understand. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to annul it. Reflect on the quiet power of kindness, especially when no one else chooses to show it. Share your thoughts in the comments, and tell us where you're watching from, which city and country are you in, and what time is it there right now. It's always amazing to see how stories like this connect people from all over the world. If moments like this remind you of the beauty of humanity, please like the video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more powerful stories that celebrate compassion, courage, and the simple acts of kindness that can change a life. October 2025 in Chicago's Little Italy carried the sharp bite of early autumn. Wind off Lake Michigan sliced down Taylor Street, rattling the red and green awnings of family-owned trattorias and carrying the mingled scents of garlic, fresh-baked bread, and diesel exhaust. Fallen maple leaves, already turning brittle crimson and gold, skittered across sidewalks like discarded confetti from some forgotten celebration. Streetlights flickered on early against the graying sky, casting long shadows over the bustling block where Moretti's Ristorante stood as the undisputed centerpiece, a 3-story brick building with wrought iron balconies, valet parking, and windows that glowed warm amber against the cooling dusk. Outside the restaurant's polished entrance, 9-year-old Mia Thompson arranged her handmade friendship bracelets on an upside-down cardboard box that served as her makeshift stall. The bracelets were simple braided embroidery floss in faded pinks, blues, and yellows, knotted with tiny plastic beads she had scavenged from church donation bins. Her small fingers, chapped and red from the wind, trembled slightly as she straightened them for the 100th time that afternoon. She wore a thin hoodie, 2 sizes too large, handed down from a cousin who had outgrown it years ago, and jeans worn so thin at the knees that the skin showed through. Her sneakers, once white, were now gray with street grime. One lace had broken and been retied in a clumsy knot. Mia had been here since 3 o'clock after school let out. She had walked the 12 blocks from the crumbling apartment she shared with her mother, Elena, and her grandmother, dodging puddles left from last night's rain. Her stomach growled steadily, a low, familiar ache. Breakfast had been half a banana and watered-down oatmeal. Lunch at school was a free tray she barely touched, because the other kids sometimes whispered about the stinky poor girl. She sold nothing yet today. Tourists sometimes stopped cooing over the cute little vendor, but locals hurried past, eyes averted, as though acknowledging her existence might force them to confront something they preferred to ignore. Across the street, a group of men in dark jackets lingered near a parked black SUV, their voices low. Mia did not know their names, but she recognized the way they carried themselves, shoulders squared, eyes scanning hands, never far from pockets. They worked for the man who owned Moretti's. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Vincent Moretti ran more than restaurants. Whispers said he controlled the waste hauling contracts, the construction permits, the quiet protection money that kept certain businesses untouched by fire or vandalism. Yet the restaurant itself was legitimate, bustling with families celebrating birthdays, couples on dates, business meetings sealed over plates of ossobuco and barolo. Vincent Moretti presented himself as a successful restaurateur, fair-skinned, impeccably dressed, always polite to customers. No one dared ask what happened after closing time. Inside the restaurant's private back office, Vincent Moretti stood at a tall window overlooking the street. At 45, he looked exactly like the man who had clawed his way up from the West Side housing projects, tall, broad-shouldered hair, still dark but streaked with premature silver at the temples. His charcoal suit tailored in Milan, fit without a single wrinkle. A gold watch glinted on his wrist as he checked the time, 5:43. His face, handsome, in a hard, unyielding way, betrayed nothing of the storm that churned beneath. Guilt never left him. It sat in his chest like wet concrete, heavy and immovable. 20 years earlier, he had made choices, violent choices that severed him from the last shreds of family he might have had. A younger brother lost to the life, a mother who died alone because he was too busy building an empire to visit her hospital bed. Remorse gnawed at him in the quiet hours, especially when he saw children on the street. He pushed the feeling down, buried it under ledgers meetings and the cold calculus of power. Emotions were liabilities. Trust was suicide. Yet every evening when he looked out this window, something cracked inside him, a fleeting wish that he could still be the boy who once believed in better things. He turned from the window as his driver Marco knocked softly and entered. "Car's ready, Mr. Moretti. 6 o'clock departure as always." Vincent nodded once curt. "Any word from the North Side crew?" Marco hesitated. "They pushed back on the new territory split. Said they want another sit-down." Vincent's jaw tightened. Another confrontation. Another chance for things to turn ugly on the street. He felt the familiar surge anger mixed with weariness. "Tell them midnight the old warehouse on Halstead. No weapons. I want this settled clean." Marco left. Vincent exhaled, slowly rubbing the bridge of his nose. The weight of it all pressed harder tonight. He was tired, not the kind of tired sleep could fix, but the bone-deep exhaustion of a man who had spent decades running from his own reflection. Outside, the wind picked up. Mia hugged herself, tighter teeth chattering. A well-dressed couple exited the restaurant laughing. The woman glanced at Mia's bracelets, smiled briefly, then kept walking. Mia's heart sank another notch. She needed $12 for tonight's groceries, milk bread, maybe a can of soup. Grandma's cough had worsened. The medicine bottle was empty. Elena worked double shifts at a diner 3 miles away, coming home after midnight with blistered feet and eyes hollow from worry. Mia had promised herself she would not let Grandma go without again. She looked up at the restaurant windows, catching a glimpse of the tall man in the suit standing there. She had seen him before, always the same routine: emerge at 6, step into the black car, disappear into the city. He never looked down. To him, she was invisible, just another shadow on the sidewalk. A sharp voice cut through her thoughts. 2 men older, rougher than the usual crowd, approached from the alley. One wore a leather jacket patched at the elbows. The other had a scar running down his cheek. They stopped in front of her box. "Hey kid," the scarred one said, voice low and mocking. "You selling junk again? Move along. This spot's ours tonight." Mia's stomach twisted. She knew these men, low-level enforcers for a rival crew that had been testing Moretti's boundaries for weeks. They had chased off other vendors before. She clutched the edge of her box, knuckles white. "I was here first," she whispered, voice so soft it barely carried over the wind. The leather jacket man laughed a harsh bark. "First, you think that matters." He kicked the box lightly, sending bracelets scattering across the pavement. Mia's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She dropped to her knees, gathering the colorful strings with shaking hands. Humiliation burned through her, hot choking. People walked by, pretending not to see. A woman with a stroller hurried past. A businessman on his phone glanced once, then looked away. Invisible. Always invisible. The scarred man leaned closer. "Last warning, little girl. Pack up or a..." deeper voice cut him off. "Enough." Vincent Moretti stood at the restaurant entrance coat, unbuttoned eyes locked on the 2 men. The street noise seemed to dim. Passers-by slowed, sensing the shift in the air. The enforcers straightened, hands twitching toward pockets before remembering the public setting. "Mr. Moretti," the scarred one said, forcing a smile. "Just having a word with the kid. No trouble." Vincent stepped forward, calm, deliberate. "She's not bothering anyone. You're the ones blocking my entrance." Tension crackled. Mia froze on the ground, bracelets clutched to her chest, heart hammering so hard she felt dizzy. She had never heard him speak before, low, controlled, carrying the weight of authority that made grown men reconsider their choices. The leather jacket man spat on the sidewalk. "This ain't your sidewalk, Moretti. Times are changing." Vincent's expression did not change, but something cold and dangerous flickered in his eyes. "Times change when I say they change. Walk away. Now." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the scarred man jerked his head. "Come on. We'll settle this later." They retreated into the alley, casting dark glances back. Vincent watched them go, then turned his attention downward. Mia was still kneeling, cheeks flushed with shame and cold. Bracelets lay scattered at his polished shoes. She looked up, really looked at him for the first time, and saw not the terrifying boss the neighborhood whispered about, but a man whose face held lines of exhaustion she recognized. The same exhaustion her mother carried home every night. Vincent crouched, slowly bringing himself to her level. His knees cracked faintly, evidence of old injuries never quite healed. He picked up a pale blue bracelet, beads clicking softly in his large hand. "You made these." His voice was quieter now, almost gentle. Mia nodded, throat too tight to speak at first. Then, in a small, trembling voice, "Yes, sir." "To help my mom and grandma." He studied the bracelet, then her face, thin cheeks, dark circles under eyes too large for her head, hair tangled from wind and neglect. Something inside him shifted, sharp and painful. Guilt surged again, mingled with a fierce, unexpected protectiveness. This child selling strings on a freezing sidewalk while he sat in heated luxury 30 feet away. The contrast struck him like a physical blow. He placed the bracelet back in her palm. Their fingers brushed his warm, hers icy. Mia flinched slightly, then steadied herself. "Stay here," he said. "Don't move." He rose, signaled Marco. Moments later, a server emerged with a paper bag, warm focaccia, a small cup of minestrone, a bottle of water. Vincent handed it to Mia. "Eat. It's getting dark." Mia stared at the food stomach, clenching with sudden, desperate hunger. Tears welled again. I can't pay for this." "You don't have to." She took the bag with shaking hands. The warmth seeped through the paper, chasing away some of the chill. She looked up at him again, confusion and gratitude warring in her eyes. Vincent felt the crack widen inside him. This was no fleeting pity. This was recognition raw searing of everything he had spent years pretending did not exist. A child cold and hungry while he had everything. The remorse he usually buried roared to life, demanding attention. He straightened, glancing at the gathering dusk. "What's your name, Mia?" she whispered. "Mia Thompson." He nodded once, memorizing it. "Vincent Moretti. If anyone bothers you again, you tell them I said so." He turned to re-enter the restaurant, but paused. Looked back. She was already opening the bag, tearing off a piece of bread with small, careful bites as though afraid it might vanish. Vincent's chest tightened. For the first time in years, he felt something dangerously close to hope and terror, that it might be too late to become the man this child deserved to look up to. The wind gusted again. Leaves swirled. And somewhere deep inside, Vincent Moretti, a long-buried part of himself, began against all reason to awaken. The wind had not relented by 5:45. It howled down Taylor Street in gusts that made the restaurant awnings snap like flags in surrender. Mia Thompson sat cross-legged on the cold pavement now, back pressed against the brick wall beside Moretti's entrance, the paper bag of food cradled in her lap like something fragile and stolen. She had eaten slowly, tiny bites of focaccia, spoonfuls of soup, savoring each mouthful as though it might be the last warm thing she tasted for days. The heat lingered in her chest, a small rebellion against the chill that had settled into her bones weeks ago, and refused to leave. She kept the bracelet box close, though only 3 strands remained unsold. The rest lay tucked inside her hoodie pocket, safe from the wind and from prying hands. Every few minutes she glanced up at the restaurant windows, half expecting to see the tall man Vincent Moretti watching her again. He had not reappeared. Yet the memory of his voice, low and steady when he told the 2 men to leave, kept replaying in her mind. No one had ever spoken for her before. Not like that. Not with such quiet finality. Across the street, in the narrow alley mouth between a shuttered dry cleaner and a pawn shop, the 2 enforcers had not gone far. Mia saw their silhouettes now and then, cigarette glows, flaring in the dark heads bent together. She pulled her knees tighter to her chest. Fear prickled along her spine, cold and familiar. She had learned early that some men did not need to raise their voices to hurt you. A shove, a kicked box, a whispered threat, small violences that accumulated until you felt hollowed out. She tried to focus on the warmth still in her hands. The soup had been rich, tomato and basil and something creamy she could not name. She had never tasted anything like it from a restaurant. At home, soup came from dented cans stretched with extra water so it would last 3 meals. Her stomach twisted with sudden shame at how greedily she had eaten Vincent's gift. What if he regretted giving it? What if he came back out and saw her still sitting here, taking up space? A soft scuff of sneakers made her look up. Lily Alvarez appeared from around the corner, backpack slung over one shoulder, dark braids swinging. 9 years old, same as Mia, but taller by almost 2 inches and fearless in ways Mia could only admire from a distance. Lily's coat was patched at the elbows with duct tape. Her jeans had holes not from fashion, but from wear. She stopped short when she saw Mia's position. "You okay?" Lily asked, voice low, eyes flicking toward the restaurant entrance. Mia nodded quickly, too quickly. "Yeah, just waiting for Mom to get off shift." Lily crouched beside her, peering into the empty soup cup. "Where'd that come from?" Mia hesitated. Heat crept up her neck. "The man, the owner, Mr. Moretti." Lily's eyebrows shot up. "The boss. He gave you food. He made the mean guys leave too. They kicked my box." Lily's face darkened. She glanced across the street at the alley. "Those North Side jerks again," Mia nodded, voice dropping to a whisper. "They said this spot was theirs tonight." Lily snorted softly, but there was no humor in it. "They say a lot of things. Doesn't make it true." She sat down fully, shoulder brushing Mia's. "You shouldn't stay here after dark. Not with them hanging around." "I know. But I need $3 more. Grandma's cough medicine, I got $2 left from lunch," Lily interrupted, digging into her pocket. She pressed crumpled bills into Mia's hand. "Take it. Pay me back whenever." Mia stared at the money throat closing. "You need it for. I need you not to get jumped by those idiots more." Lily's voice cracked just slightly enough to betray the worry she tried to hide behind bravado. We look out for each other, right? Mia swallowed hard. Right. For a moment they sat in silence, two small figures against the vast, indifferent city. The wind tugged at their hoods. Streetlights buzzed overhead. Inside, Moretti's laughter and clinking glasses filtered through the glass another world entirely. Then voices, Korean, rapid and clipped, drifted from the alley. Mia stiffened. Lily did too. The two enforcers were gone, replaced by three men Mia had never seen before. They wore dark jackets, earpieces, and moved with the practiced ease of people who expected trouble and knew how to meet it. One leaned against the brick wall, speaking low into a phone. The other two stood closer to the alley, mouth faces half in shadow. Mia caught fragments Korean words she recognized from the K-dramas she and Lily watched on Elena's cracked phone screen late at night when Grandma was asleep. She had learned more than she realized: hello, goodbye, numbers, simple phrases. Enough to understand tone. Enough to know when something was wrong. Lily nudged her. What are they saying? Mia strained to listen. The wind carried pieces. Car at 6. Under the seat. When he opens the door. A hand gesture followed an abrupt, explosive motion. Laughter short and ugly. Mia's blood turned to ice. She grabbed Lily's sleeve. They're talking about Mr. Moretti's car. Lily frowned. What they said. When he opens the door. Something about under the seat. And then Mia mimicked the gesture without thinking. Like, boom. Lily's eyes widened. You sure? Mia nodded, heart slamming against her ribs. They're his guards. I've seen them before. They always stand by the car at 6. Lily looked from Mia to the alley, then back. That's crazy. Why would his own people? I don't know. Mia's voice trembled, but they laughed. Like it was funny. Horror bloomed in her chest, slow at first, then sharp and suffocating. She pictured Vincent Moretti stepping out of the restaurant exactly as he always did, coat buttoned, phone to his ear, never glancing down. She pictured the black car waiting at the curb. She pictured an explosion she could not even imagine, only feel the heat, the shatter, the silence after. Lily's hand tightened on her arm. We have to tell someone. Who? Mia whispered. The police. They won't believe two kids. The restaurant staff, they'll think we're making it up. Then him. The boss. Mia's stomach lurched. He won't listen to me. I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Lily said fiercely. He gave you food. He told those guys to back off. He looked at you. Mia stared at the restaurant doors. 5:52. 8 minutes until Vincent Moretti walked out. Inside the private office, Vincent stood alone now. The room smelled of leather espresso and the faint cedar of his cologne. He had removed his jacket, rolled his sleeves to the elbows. A scar, old white jagged, ran along his left forearm, souvenir from a night 20 years earlier, when trust had nearly cost him everything. He stared at the framed photograph on the desk, himself at 18 arm, around a younger brother who grinned like the world could still be kind. The brother had vanished after one too many arguments about loyalty, about family, about the life Vincent had chosen. Everyone assumed he was dead. Vincent had never stopped searching in secret. The guilt had carved permanent grooves into his heart, remorse, so deep it felt like another organ pumping poison instead of blood. A soft knock. Marco again. Sir, the Northside crew confirmed midnight. They're bringing extra muscle. Vincent's jaw clenched. Let them. I want this finished tonight. Marco nodded and left. Vincent exhaled, rubbing the scar on his arm. The weight of the evening pressed harder, the confrontation looming, the endless calculations of power and betrayal. And beneath it all, the small, persistent image of the girl on the sidewalk. Thin wrists, enormous eyes, voice so soft it barely reached him. He had given her food on impulse. Now the impulse felt like a crack in armor he had spent decades forging. He hated it. He hated how much he wanted to look out the window again to see if she was still there. 5:56. Outside, Mia stood, legs shaky. She gathered her box, folded the remaining bracelets into her pocket. Lily rose with her. You sure about this? Lily asked. No, Mia admitted. But I can't just walk away. Lily squeezed her hand. Then we don't. They moved closer to the entrance, positioning themselves where Vincent would have to pass. Mia's heart raced so fast, she felt dizzy, the world tilting slightly. Cold sweat prickled her scalp. What if he ignored her? What if he thought she was lying? What if the men in the alley saw her first? 5:58. Vincent straightened his tie, slipped his jacket back on. He glanced at his watch one last time, precise, predictable, always 6 o'clock. He stepped toward the door. Mia took a breath that hurt. The restaurant doors opened. Vincent emerged into the wind. Mia stepped forward, small and trembling, directly into his path. The restaurant doors sighed shut behind Vincent Moretti, with the soft click of expensive brass. Wind immediately snatched at his coattails, tugging them sideways like impatient hands. He stepped forward one measured stride, eyes already scanning the curb where Marco waited beside the gleaming black sedan. 6 o'clock sharp, routine as breathing, predictable as the city's heartbeat. Mia Thompson stood directly in his path. She had not planned the exact spot, only that she must be seen, must be heard. Her sneakers rooted to the pavement. The cardboard box dangled forgotten from one small fist. Lily hovered a half step behind shoulders squared in silent support, though her dark eyes darted nervously toward the alley mouth where the Korean-speaking men had disappeared moments earlier. Vincent stopped short. For an instant, the world narrowed to the child before him. Thin frame swallowed by an oversized hoodie, face pale, except for 2 feverish spots of color on her cheeks. Enormous eyes locked on his with something that looked like terror, determination braided together. He felt the jolt again, sharper this time. Recognition. Not of her name he had asked it earlier, but of the hollowed cheeks, the faint tremor in her hands, the way she held herself as though braced for rejection. He had seen that posture in mirrors long ago, in housing project stairwells. In the eyes of kids he had once been powerless to help. "Mr. Moretti," Mia said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended, barely above the wind. She cleared her throat, tried again. "Please, don't get in the car." Vincent's brow furrowed. Not anger, confusion first. Then faint irritation. He was late already. The Northside meeting loomed like storm clouds. He glanced at Marco, who had straightened hand, drifting toward his jacket. Kid Vincent said gently but firmly, "Step aside. It's cold out here." Mia's heart lurched. She had rehearsed nothing. There were no practiced words for this. Only the frantic pulse in her ears, and the memory of those overheard Korean fragments when he opens the door, under the seat. Boom. She took one shaky step closer. "They're going to hurt you, the men in the alley. Your guards. I heard them talking." Vincent's expression shifted, something colder settling into place. He had dealt with threats his entire adult life. Most were noise, some were real. Children, though, did not usually deliver them. "Which men?" he asked, voice low. Mia pointed toward the alley without looking. "The ones who speak Korean." They said, "When you open the door, something under the seat." They laughed. Vincent went very still. Across the street, headlights swept the corner as a delivery van turned onto Taylor. The wind gusted again, carrying the faint metallic scent of impending rain. Mia felt dizzy. The pavement seemed to tilt. She had not eaten enough today, had not slept enough in weeks. Hunger and exhaustion collided inside her, making her sway slightly. Lily's hand shot out to steady her elbow. Vincent noticed the movement, noticed everything, the way Mia's knees locked to keep from buckling, the faint blue tint to her lips, the way she clutched her cardboard box like a shield. Suspicion warred with something fiercer inside him, protectiveness so sudden and violent it stole his breath. This child, starving, freezing, risking whatever small safety she had to warn a stranger, was standing here telling him his own people planned to kill him. And she looked ready to collapse doing it. He crouched again, bringing his face level with hers. The expensive wool of his coat brushed the dirty sidewalk. He did not care. "Tell me exactly what you heard," he said quietly. Mia swallowed. Her tongue felt thick. "They said, 'Ready at 6 exactly.'" Then one made this, she mimed the explosive gesture again, hands shaking so badly the motion blurred, and they laughed. Like it was a joke. But it wasn't. "I know it wasn't." Vincent searched her face. No guile, only fear, and beneath it a stubborn spark of courage that reminded him painfully of someone he had once been. He rose slowly, turned toward Marco. "Check the car," he said. "No volume, no dram. Just absolute command." Marco hesitated, only a heartbeat, then moved. Mia exhaled in a rush, relief so sharp it hurt. She had been believed. For one fragile second the world felt less cruel. Then the alley erupted. 3 figures emerged, not the original 2 enforcers, but the Korean-speaking guards Vincent had trusted with his schedule for years. They moved fast, purposeful. One spoke rapidly into an earpiece. Another's hand disappeared inside his jacket. Vincent's body language changed instantly, shoulders squaring, weight shifting forward onto the balls of his feet. He stepped in front of Mia, without conscious thought, shielding her slight frame with his own. "Stay behind me," he murmured. Mia obeyed, pressing close. She could smell his cologne, cedar, and something expensive, and beneath it, the faint warmth of his body. It felt impossibly safe. She hated how much she wanted to stay there. The lead guard stopped 10 feet away. "Sir," he said in accented English, "we should get you inside." "There's been a report," Vincent cut him off. Marco already checked the car. The man's face flickered, barely perceptible, but Vincent saw it. Saw the micro-twitch at the corner of the mouth, the sudden stillness of the hands. Betrayal landed like a physical blow. Remorse surged again, this time laced with fury. How many years had he surrounded himself with men he thought loyal? How many times had he told himself trust was weakness, only to discover the real weakness was his own blindness? He felt the old scar on his forearm, throb phantom pain for nights when loyalty had cost blood. "Step back," Vincent said to the guards. Quiet, deadly. They did not. The wind chose that moment to die completely. Silence pressed down on Taylor Street like a held breath. Then the scarred enforcer from earlier, the one who had kicked Mia's box, appeared at the alley mouth, flanked by 2 more men. Rivals, opportunists, smelling blood. "Looks like we got here just in time," the scarred man called. "Trouble in paradise." Moretti Vincent never took his eyes off his own guards. "This doesn't concern you." "Oh, it does now," the scarred man grinned. "Word travels fast when the king's own knights start sharpening knives." Mia's knees buckled. Lily caught her before she fell. The 2 girls clung together, small and trembling against the storm of adult violence gathering around them. Vincent felt something snap inside him, not anger but anguish. These children, hungry, cold, exhausted, were witnessing the rot he had allowed to fester in his world. He had walked past Mia every day for months, ignored her, dismissed her existence, and now she stood between him and death because she had chosen kindness where he had chosen walls. He reached back without looking, found Mia's hand. His fingers closed around hers, large, warm, steady. She gasped softly at the contact, then gripped back with surprising strength. "Marco," Vincent said, still facing the guards, "get them inside. Now." Marco moved instantly, ushering the girls toward the restaurant doors. Mia resisted for 1 heartbeat, fear of the unknown warring with trust in the man who had shielded her. Then she let herself be guided, Lily beside her. The doors closed behind them. Inside, the restaurant's warmth enveloped them like a blanket, garlic, rosemary, candle wax, the low murmur of diners who had no idea what unfolded outside. A hostess blinked in surprise at the sight of 2 disheveled children being hurried past. Marco led them to a small private booth near the back, away from windows. "Stay here," he said. "Don't move." Mia sank onto the leather seat. Her legs would no longer hold her. She felt numb, arms heavy, head spinning. The warmth hurt almost as much as the cold had. Tears came, then silent and unstoppable. Not from fear alone, but from the sudden, violent contrast outside. She had been invisible, disposable. Inside, she sat in a booth that probably cost more to clean than her family's monthly rent. Lily sat beside her, arm around her shoulders. "You did it," she whispered. He listened. Mia shook her head. "They're still out there." Outside, Vincent faced the converging threats. The Korean guards hesitated, torn between orders and self-preservation. The rival enforcers edged closer, sensing weakness. Vincent spoke once, voice carrying over the wind. "Walk away, all of you. Last chance." No one moved. Then sirens, distant at first, growing louder. Marco had called it in the moment Vincent stepped in front of the girls. Not police, Vincent's own private security, vetted, loyal, already en route. The scarred man cursed under his breath. "This ain't over, Moretti." "It never is," Vincent replied. The groups retreated slowly, grudgingly melting back into alleys and side streets. The Korean guards lingered, longest faces pale. Vincent met each gaze in turn. He said nothing. The message was clear, they were finished. He waited until the street cleared, then turned back toward the restaurant. His heart hammered, not from danger, but from something far more terrifying. He had protected her, instinctively, without calculation, and she had protected him first. The imbalance tore at him, violent, unrelenting. He had built an empire on control, yet a 9-year-old child, malnourished and shivering, had risked everything for a man who had never given her a second glance. He pushed through the doors. The hostess pointed toward the back booth. Vincent walked the length of the restaurant, past candlelit tables and murmured conversations, feeling every eye on him, and none of it mattering. Mia looked up as he approached. Her eyes were red-rimmed face streaked with drying tears. She tried to stand polite, reflexive, but her legs gave out. She sat again, small and broken, and impossibly brave. Vincent slid into the booth opposite her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he reached across the table, palm up. Mia stared at his hand, scarred, steady, open. Slowly, hesitantly, she placed her own inside it. Her fingers were ice. His were warm. Something inside Vincent shattered quietly, irrevocably. He did not let go. The private booth felt smaller than it should have, candlelight flickering across polished mahogany, the low hum of the restaurant fading into white noise. Mia Thompson sat rigid on the supple leather seat, hands folded in her lap, fingers twisting the frayed hem of her hoodie. The warmth of the room pressed against her skin like something foreign. It made her shiver harder, as though her body had forgotten how to accept comfort. Lily sat beside her, silent now, one small hand resting protectively on Mia's knee. Neither girl spoke. The space between breaths felt charged, fragile, like the moment before a storm breaks. Vincent Moretti slid into the opposite seat again. He moved with deliberate slowness, every gesture measured as though sudden motion might shatter something irreparable. His coat remained on. The expensive wool still carried the chill of the street. He placed both hands flat on the table, palms down, scarred knuckles catching the candle glow. For several long seconds, he simply looked at Mia. She met his gaze and immediately dropped her eyes. Habit, instinct, years of learning that direct eye contact invited trouble. Her heart thudded so violently she felt it in her throat. The booth smelled of garlic and rosemary, and something richer like money turned into scent. She had never been this close to so much quiet wealth. The napkin folded beside his elbow probably cost more than the shoes she had worn through last winter. Vincent broke the silence first. "You said they spoke Korean." Mia nodded once, barely moving her head. "You understood them." Another small nod. How her voice came out thread thin. "Lily and I, we watch K-dramas. On Mom's phone. At night when Grandma's asleep. We learned some words. Enough to know when they were planning something bad." Vincent's expression did not change, but inside him something convulsed, sharp, almost nauseating. A 9-year-old child sleeping in a freezing apartment, teaching herself a foreign language from a cracked phone screen so she could understand the world enough to survive it. He had private tutors for his nephews. Language immersion programs in Europe. And this girl had learned Korean from pirated episodes on a device that probably shut off when the battery dipped below 10%. He leaned forward slightly. "Repeat it. Every word you remember." Mia swallowed. Her mouth felt dry despite the water glass Marco had left. She closed her eyes, forcing herself back to the alley, the cigarette smoke, the low laughter, the explosive hand gesture. They said, "Car, ready at 6 exactly." Then, "Device under the seat." One asked, "Remote," and the other she opened her eyes, voice dropping to a whisper, "When he opens the seat, door." Then they made the boom sound, and laughed. Vincent listened without interrupting. Each word landed like a stone in still water, rippling outward through every layer of suspicion he had built around his life. His own security team, his own schedule, his own predictable routine weaponized against him. Outside the street had quieted, but tension lingered like smoke after a fire. The rival enforcers had melted away, but Vincent knew they watched from doorways and parked cars. The Korean guards, 3 men he had paid well trusted with his calendar, had vanished into the night. He would deal with them later. Right now, the child across from him held more truth than any of them ever had. He reached into his jacket pocket slowly, always slowly with children, and withdrew his phone. He tapped once. Marco appeared at the booth entrance like he had been waiting for the signal. "Bomb squad," Vincent said quietly. "Discreet. My car. Now." Marco nodded and disappeared. Mia's breath hitched. "Bomb squad." Vincent met her eyes again. "If you're right, there's something under that seat. If you're wrong," he paused, then softer, "we'll know soon." Mia's world tilted. The booth seemed to spin slowly. She gripped the table edge, knuckles white. Horror clawed up her throat, cold, suffocating. What if she had misunderstood? What if the men had been joking? What if she had just accused innocent people and ruined Mr. Moretti's night for nothing? The thought made her dizzy. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. Lily squeezed her knee harder. "You heard what you heard," she murmured. Vincent watched the panic bloom across Mia's face. Something inside him tore wider, violent, unrelenting. This child had risked everything, humiliation, retaliation, the fragile safety of invisibility to save him. And now she sat here trembling, terrified that her courage had been misplaced. He reached across the table again. This time he did not wait for her hand. He covered her small, icy fingers with his own gentle, steady enveloping. "Look at me," he said. Mia lifted her gaze slowly. Tears brimmed, threatening to spill. "You did the right thing," he told her. "No matter what happens next, you spoke when no one else did." The words struck her like a physical force. No one had ever told her that before. Not her teachers who sighed when she fell asleep in class. Not the landlord who banged on the door for rent. Not even her mother who loved her fiercely but was too exhausted to notice much beyond survival. Mia's tears fell, then silent hot tracks down her cheeks. She did not sob. She had learned long ago that loud crying drew attention she could not afford. Instead, she wept quietly, shoulders shaking, while Vincent held her hand across the table like it was the most natural thing in the world. Minutes passed in condensed stillness. The restaurant carried on around them, waiters gliding past laughter from other tables, the clink of silverware. None of it touched the booth. Inside that small space, time stretched thin and painful. Then Marco returned, face grim. "Sir, they found it. Remote detonation. Under the driver's seat. Bomb squad has it now." Vincent exhaled once, long controlled. Relief warred with rage inside him. The device was real. His own people had planted it. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Mia made a small sound, half gasp, half sob. I was right. Vincent looked at her again. Really looked. Thin face, hollow eyes, the way she tried to make herself smaller even now. You saved my life, he said simply. The words landed between them like a vow. Mia stared at him, shock, rendering her motionless. Saved his life. The phrase echoed in her head, impossible, absurd. She was nobody. A girl who sold bracelets on the sidewalk because her family could not afford heat. A girl who had gone to bed hungry more nights than she could count. And yet Vincent felt the shift inside himself profound, irreversible. The guilt that had gnawed at him for years suddenly had shape, had weight. He had ignored her every day. Walked past her thin frame, her hopeful display of bracelets, her quiet endurance. He had built walls so high that only a child's desperate courage could breach them. He stood abruptly. Marco. Clear the street. No one in or out until I say. Marco nodded. Vincent turned back to the girls. Come with me. Mia hesitated. Where? Somewhere safe. Until I know the rest of this crew is handled. Lily looked at Mia, question in her eyes. Mia nodded, once small but certain. They slid out of the booth. Vincent walked ahead, coat billowing slightly. Mia and Lily followed close behind, two small shadows in a world suddenly too large. As they passed through the kitchen doors into the back hallway, Vincent paused. He looked down at Mia. You're shaking, he said quietly. She nodded, unable to lie. He shrugged off his coat, wool cashmere blend worth more than her family's rent for months, and draped it over her shoulders. It swallowed her completely, sleeves dangling past her fingertips, hem brushing her shins. Mia froze. The coat smelled of him, cedar warmth, safety. She clutched the lapels with both hands as though afraid it would vanish. Vincent crouched again. Keep it. It's yours tonight. Tears welled anew. I can't. You can. His voice was firm but gentle. And you will. Outside in the alley behind the restaurant, two more figures waited, shadows from the North Side crew, hoping to exploit the chaos. They stepped forward as Vincent emerged with the girls. Moretti, one called. Heard you had some trouble. Vincent stopped, placed himself between the men and the children without a word. Walk away, he said. The men laughed low, mocking. Vincent's hand drifted toward his side, not reaching for a weapon, but the gesture was unmistakable. The men hesitated, looked at the two small girls half hidden behind him, looked at the man who had built an empire on calm, calculated violence. They backed off slowly, grudgingly, disappearing into the dark. Vincent exhaled, turned to Mia. She stared up at him, eyes wide, coat sleeves dangling, face streaked with tears and wonder. In that moment, something inside Vincent surrendered completely. Not to weakness, to responsibility. To the fierce, burning need to protect what he had almost lost before he even knew it mattered. He held out his hand again. Mia placed hers inside it without hesitation. This time she did not let go. The back hallway of Moretti's ristorante smelled of fresh basil, warm bread, and the faint metallic tang of fear. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the stainless steel prep tables. Mia Thompson stood motionless in the borrowed wool coat that still engulfed her like a cape meant for someone much larger. The sleeves hung past her fingertips. The hem brushed her shins. She clutched the lapels with both hands as though the garment might disappear if she let go. Beside her, Lily Alvarez pressed close eyes wide and watchful. The two girls looked impossibly small against the towering shelves of imported olive oil and aged Parmesan. Vincent Moretti led them through the narrow corridor, his footsteps deliberate, measured. Every few paces he glanced back, not at the hallway, but at Mia. Each look carried the same unspoken question. Are you still here? Are you still breathing? The answer every time was yes, and each confirmation carved another groove into the guilt that already scarred his heart. Marco waited at the rear service door, holding it open to the alley. Cold air rushed in, sharp October wind laced with diesel and distant rain. Vincent paused just inside the threshold, one hand on Mia's shoulder, light, protective, instinctive. Stay close, he murmured. We're going to my place. It's safe. Mia nodded, though. Her legs felt like water. The coat smelled of him, cedar faint cologne, something warm and expensive she had no name for. It was the first time in months she had felt truly covered against the wind. The sensation was so foreign it hurt. They stepped into the alley. Two black SUVs waited, engines idling low. Vincent's personal detail, 4 men in dark suits, stood at strategic points, one by each vehicle, 2 scanning rooftops. Professional, quiet, loyal, at least for now. Vincent guided the girls toward the lead SUV. Mia's sneakers scraped the uneven pavement. She stumbled once on a loose brick. Vincent caught her elbow without a word, steadying her as though she weighed nothing. She looked up at him, shock flickering through her exhaustion, and saw something raw in his eyes. Not pity, not obligation, something fiercer, something that made her chest ache in a way she did not understand. The rear door opened. Vincent helped Lillian first, then turned to Mia. Before she could climb inside, headlights swept the alley mouth. A third vehicle, older unmarked gray sedan, rolled to a slow stop, blocking the exit. Doors opened. 4 men stepped out. Not the North Side crew this time. These were leaner, hungrier remnants of a smaller faction that had been circling Vincent's territory for months, waiting for any sign of weakness. The lead man, tall shaved head tattoo creeping up his neck, smiled thinly. "Moretti, heard you had a little bomb scare tonight. Thought we'd check on you." Vincent positioned himself between the girls and the newcomers. His voice stayed calm, almost conversational. "You're late to the party, Rossi. It's over." Rossi's smile widened. It looks like you're babysitting now. Cute." Mia felt the shift in the air, electric, dangerous. She shrank back against the SUV coat sleeves dangling. Lily grabbed her hand, squeezing hard enough to bruise. Vincent did not raise his voice. "Turn around. Drive away. This doesn't have to get loud." Rossi laughed short, mirthless. "You think we're scared of loud. You're the one with kids in tow. Makes you soft." Vincent's hand hovered near his side habit reflex, but he did not draw. Not here. Not with Mia and Lily watching. Inside him, the conflict roared. He had spent decades building a reputation that made men back down without a shot fired. Now that reputation was cracking, and the fracture hurt worse than any bullet. These men saw weakness because he had allowed 2 children to become his priority, and yet every fiber of him refused to regret it. Mia's breath came in shallow bursts. She stared at Vincent's broad back, the way his shoulders squared, the way he stood immovable between her and danger. No one had ever done that before. Not her father, who had disappeared before she could walk. Not the landlord who threatened eviction every month. Not even her mother, who tried but was too tired to fight the world alone. Tears stung again. She hated them, hated how easily they came now, how exposed she felt. She was supposed to be invisible, safe in invisibility. Yet here she stood trembling behind a man who had every reason to walk away, and he had not. Vincent took 1 step forward. "Last chance," he said quietly. Rossi's men shifted hands, twitching toward jackets. Tension coiled tighter. Then Marco's voice, low, urgent, from behind Vincent. "Sir, bomb squad's clear. Device was live. Remote trigger found in the lead guard's locker." The words landed like a slap. Rossi's smile faltered. "You're bluffing." Vincent turned his head just enough to speak over his shoulder without taking his eyes off the threat. "Tell them Marco." Marco stepped forward, phone in hand. "Chicago PD has the device. Serial number traced. One of your own men planted it, Mr. Moretti. The same man who just tried to run." Silence. Rossi's face drained of color. Vincent spoke again, soft, almost gentle. "Go home, Rossi. Tell your people the king is still standing, and he remembers faces." The standoff broke. Rossi cursed under his breath. His men backed toward their car, slow grudging pride, warring with self-preservation. Engines revved. Tires hissed on wet pavement. The gray sedan reversed, then vanished into the night. Vincent exhaled once, long shuddering. He turned back to the girls. Mia was crying openly now, silent tears, shoulders heaving. The coat sleeves dangled as she wiped her face with trembling hands. Lily held her tight, but her own eyes were wet. Vincent crouched, knees cracking faintly on the cold asphalt. He looked at Mia first. "You okay?" She nodded, then shook her head. Words failed her. He reached out slowly, carefully, and brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. The touch was feather-light, almost reverent. "You saved me," he said again, voice rough. "And I almost let you stand out there alone." Mia stared at him, confusion, wonder, terror swirling together. "Why? Why are you helping us?" Vincent felt the question like a knife twist. Why? Because she had seen him, really seen him, when he had spent years making sure no one could. Because her courage had cracked open every lie he told himself about power and isolation. Because the sight of her thin, shivering brave made every ounce of his accumulated guilt scream for release. He swallowed hard. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "And it's going to be me." Mia's breath caught. The words landed deep, deeper than hunger, deeper than cold nights, deeper than the endless humiliation of being poor and small and overlooked. Vincent stood, helped her into the SUV, gentle hands under her arms, careful not to startle. Lily followed. The door closed with a solid, expensive thunk. Inside the vehicle, the world felt muffled leather seats, heated soft classical music playing low, the scent of new car and safety. Mia sank into the cushion. It swallowed her small frame. She had never sat somewhere so soft. The contrast was violent. Her body remembered hard floors, threadbare blankets, nights when the wind whistled through cracked windows. Now warmth surrounded her, and the shock of it made her dizzy. Vincent slid in beside them. The driver pulled away smoothly. Mia looked at him, really looked. The lines around his eyes, the silver at his temples, the scar on his forearm visible where his sleeve had ridden up. He looked tired. Not just physically, soul-tired. She spoke before she could stop herself, voice small, trembling. "Are you going to take us home?" After Vincent met her gaze. "Not tonight. Not until I know it's safe." Mia nodded slowly. Then, in a whisper so quiet he almost missed it, "Thank you." Vincent felt the words strike him like a blow he had been waiting for his entire life. He reached over slowly and tucked the oversized coat more securely around her shoulders. "You're welcome," he said, voice thick. "And you're safe now." The SUV glided through Chicago's night streets, past glittering skyscrapers, past darkened storefronts, past the invisible corners where children like Mia still shivered. Inside the car, in the quiet bubble of heated leather and low music, Vincent Moretti sat beside a girl he had never noticed until she saved him, and felt the first true crack in the empire of solitude he had built. He did not let go of her hand the entire drive. The black SUV glided through Chicago's late October night, like a shadow moving through deeper shadow. Streetlights streaked past in golden blurs. Rain began to fall in fine, cold needles that tapped against the tinted windows. Inside the cabin remained warm, heated leather seats, soft ambient lighting, the faint hum of the engine, the only sound besides the girl's uneven breathing. Mia Thompson sat wedged between the door and Lily Vincent Moretti's oversized coat still draped over her like a blanket too large for her frame. The wool retained his body heat. Every time she shifted, she caught the faint scent of cedar and quiet authority. She had stopped crying, but her eyes remained glassy wide with the kind of shock that numbs rather than hurts, at least for the first few minutes. Her hands stayed clasped in her lap, fingers knotted together so tightly the knuckles showed white against her thin skin. Lily leaned against her shoulder, silent now, exhaustion, etching lines around her young mouth. Neither girl had spoken since the alley confrontation. Words felt too heavy, too dangerous, as though speaking them might shatter the fragile bubble of safety they had stumbled into. Vincent sat across from them on the rear-facing seat, elbows on his knees, hands loosely clasped. He had removed his suit jacket earlier. The crisp white shirt beneath rolled to the elbows, revealed the old scar running along his left forearm, jagged pale, a reminder of nights when loyalty had cost blood. He stared at the floor, jaw tight, every line of his body radiating controlled tension. The silence stretched thick, heavy, alive with unspoken things. Mia broke at first, voice so soft it barely carried over the engine. Where are we going?" Vincent lifted his gaze. Met hers, held it. "My place. A penthouse on the lakefront. No one gets in without clearance. You'll be safe there tonight." Mia nodded slowly. The word penthouse landed strangely foreign, almost unreal. She had never been above the third floor of any building. Her apartment was on the second, with windows that rattled in the wind and a radiator that hissed but rarely warmed. She pictured marble floors, glass walls, views of the city lights she had only seen in movies. The image made her stomach twist, part wonder, part terror. What if she broke something? What if they saw how dirty her sneakers were? What if they realized she did not belong? Vincent watched the emotions chase across her face. Fear, curiosity, shame, and each one struck him like a fresh wound. He had lived in luxury so long he had forgotten what it felt like to fear a clean floor. Forgotten what hunger did to a child's eyes. Forgotten how small the world became when you had nothing. He leaned forward slightly. "You hungry, Mia?" Hesitated, instinctive, guarded, then shook her head. "We ate. The soup. And the bread." Vincent's mouth tightened. "That was hours ago. You're both too thin to skip meals." Lily spoke, then quiet but firm. "We're okay." Vincent looked at her, really looked, and saw the same hollow cheeks, the same shadows under the eyes. Two children carrying burdens no 9-year-old should know. He pressed the intercom. "Marco, pull into the garage. Have the kitchen send up something light, soup, bread, fruit. Nothing heavy." "Yes, sir." The SUV descended a ramp into underground parking, clean, brightly lit, lined with gleaming luxury vehicles. Mia stared. She had never seen so many cars that looked brand new. Her mother's old sedan had rust holes big enough to fit a fist. They stepped out into an elevator lobby of polished black marble and brushed brass. Vincent swiped a card. The doors opened silently. The ride up was smooth, swift, soundless. Mia felt her ears pop. When the doors parted on the penthouse level, she nearly stumbled. The entry foyer opened into a vast space, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking Lake Michigan, dark water glittering under distant city lights. Cream-colored sofas, abstract art in muted golds and blues, a fireplace already burning low behind glass. The air smelled of clean linen and something faintly citrusy. No clutter, no noise, only quiet, deliberate luxury. Mia froze in the doorway. Vincent noticed. He stopped, turned, crouched to her level again. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're allowed to be here." Her eyes filled. I'm dirty. My shoes." Vincent glanced down. Her sneakers were caked with street grime laces frayed. He felt something crack inside him, violent, almost physical. He had walked past her every day for months, seen the shoes, the thin hoodie, the cardboard box of bracelets, and done nothing. He straightened. "Take them off. Leave them here. I'll have them cleaned." Mia obeyed slowly, fingers clumsy with cold and nerves. Her socks were thin, one with a hole at the big toe. She curled her toes in embarrassment. Vincent led them deeper into the living room. A low table already held trays steaming, bowls of chicken noodle soup, fresh rolls, sliced apples, glasses of milk. The sight made Mia's stomach clench with sudden, desperate hunger she had tried to ignore. "Sit," Vincent said. "Eat." The girls hesitated, then sank onto the edge of the sofa, perched, not relaxed, as though afraid to leave a mark. Vincent sat across from them in an armchair, elbows on his knees, watching. Mia lifted the spoon with trembling fingers. The first sip burned her tongue, warm, salty, rich. Tears welled again. She ate slowly, carefully, as though the food might vanish if she hurried. Lily did the same beside her. Vincent watched in silence. Each small bite they took felt like an accusation. He had dined in Michelin-starred restaurants, tasted wines older than these children. And these girls, malnourished, sleep-deprived, ate soup like it was treasure. When the bowls were nearly empty, he spoke. "I need to make some calls. Stay here. Marco's outside the door. You're safe." Mia looked up. "Are you coming back?" Vincent paused. The question, small, timid, hit him harder than any threat he had faced tonight. "Yes," he said. "I'm coming back." He rose, walked to the study door, paused again. "Bathrooms are down the hall. Towels are clean. Use whatever you need." He disappeared. Mia stared after him. The room felt too big, suddenly too quiet, too warm, too safe. She set the bowl down carefully, hands shaking. Lily whispered, "He's not like the others." Mia nodded. "I know." They sat in stillness for long minutes, two small figures swallowed by a world of luxury they had never imagined. The fire crackled softly. Rain pattered against the glass. Vincent returned 20 minutes later, face drawn, eyes shadowed. He carried a slim folder. He sat again, opened it. "I ran your name," he said quietly. "Mia Thompson. Elena Thompson, your mother." Mia nodded, wary now. Vincent exhaled slowly. "I knew an Elena. 20 years ago. Brief. She left the city before I could. Before I knew." Mia frowned. "My mom's name is Elena, but she never talks about." Vincent slid a photograph across the table, an old snapshot faded at the edges. A younger Vincent arm around a young woman with Mia's eyes, Mia's smile. Mia stared. The room tilted. "That's my mom." Vincent nodded once. "I didn't know you existed," he said, voice rough. "She never told me. I looked for her for years. Thought she just disappeared." Mia's breath came in shallow gasps. Your Vincent met her gaze, raw, unguarded. "I'm your father." The words landed like thunder in the quiet room. Mia's vision blurred. She felt dizzy, numbness spreading from her chest outward. The spoon slipped from her fingers, clattered against the bowl. Lily grabbed her arm, steadying her. Vincent leaned forward, hands open, helpless. "I didn't know," he repeated. "I swear I didn't know." Mia stared at the photograph, at the man across from her, at the penthouse that suddenly felt both impossibly distant and unbearably close. Tears came again, hot, fast, unstoppable. Vincent moved without thinking, crossing the space between them, kneeling on the thick rug, pulling her into his arms. Mia stiffened at first, years of guarding herself against touch, then melted against him. Small fists clutched his shirt. Sobs shook her thin frame. Vincent held her tight, fierce, as though she might vanish if he loosened his grip. Tears burned his own eyes, silent, unaccustomed. "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry." Outside, rain fell harder against the glass. Inside, a father held his daughter for the first time, and the empire of solitude he had built began irrevocably to crumble. Dawn crept across Lake Michigan in pale silver streaks, turning the penthouse windows into mirrors of soft light. The rain had stopped sometime after midnight. Now only the distant rumble of early traffic reached the high floor. Inside, the fireplace had burned down to glowing embers, casting faint orange flickers across the cream rugs and pale upholstery. Mia Thompson slept, curled on the enormous sectional sofa, knees drawn to her chest, Vincent's wool coat still draped over her like a makeshift blanket. Her breathing was shallow, uneven years of sleep interrupted by cold drafts, and hunger had trained her body to rest lightly, always half ready to wake. Lily lay beside her head, pillowed on Mia's shoulder, one small hand clutching the edge of the coat as though afraid it might be taken away in the night. Vincent Moretti had not slept. He sat in the armchair across from them, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. The study door stood open behind him. Inside, papers and a laptop glowed faintly, evidence of calls made and orders given through the small hours. The Korean guards had been located, 2 already in custody, 1 still missing. The Northside crew had gone quiet, but Vincent knew silence from them meant calculation, not surrender. He had doubled security, rerouted schedules, burned through favors he had saved for years. All of it mechanical, necessary. Yet none of it touched the storm inside him. He lifted his head and watched the girls sleep. Mia's face, thin-shadowed, streaked, with dried tears, held no peace even in rest. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath her eyes. Her lips were chapped from wind and dehydration. She looked so small against the vast sofa, swallowed by cushions meant for adults with full lives and full bellies. Vincent felt the sight like a physical wound, sharp, unrelenting. He had lived in this penthouse for 8 years. Marble counters, Italian linens, views that cost more per month than most families earned in a lifetime. And all that time his own daughter had been sleeping on a mattress that sagged in the middle under blankets patched with duct tape, waking to the sound of her grandmother's cough and her mother's exhausted footsteps at 2 in the morning. Remorse surged again, violent, almost nauseating. He pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes until colors burst behind the lids. How many nights had she gone to bed hungry while he dined on steak flown in from Argentina? How many winters had she shivered while he adjusted the thermostat with a flick of his wrist? The disparity was obscene. He had built walls of wealth and power to keep pain out. Instead, they had kept him blind to the pain he had helped create by absence. A soft sound, Mia stirring, snapped him upright. Her eyes fluttered open. For a heartbeat, she looked disoriented, pupils wide, breath catching as memory rushed back. Then she saw him. "Mr. Moretti," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the name, still formal, still guarded even after everything. Vincent rose, slowly crossed the rug, knelt beside the sofa. "You can call me Vincent," he said quietly. "Or whatever feels right." Mia swallowed. Her throat worked visibly. Dad, the word hung between them, small, fragile testing. Vincent felt it strike him like a fist to the sternum. His breath left in a rush. Tears, unbidden, unwelcome, burned the backs of his eyes. "Yeah," he managed. "Dad." Mia sat up slowly. The coat slipped from her shoulders. She caught it before it fell, clutching it like a lifeline. Lily woke, then blinking, confused, then wide-eyed as she remembered where they were. Vincent looked at both girls. "You're safe here. As long as you need." Mia's lower lip trembled. "Mom, Grandma." "I sent Marco to your apartment an hour ago," Vincent said. "They're being brought here. Your grandmother's cough medicine is already in the bathroom cabinet, full prescription, fresh. Your mother's shift was covered." "She's on her way." Mia stared at him, shock, rendering her motionless. "You did that?" Vincent nodded once. Tears spilled over Mia's lashes. She did not wipe them away this time. "Why?" Vincent exhaled, long, ragged. "Because I should have done it years ago. Because I left you to carry everything alone. Because I'm trying. God help me to be better than the man who walked past you every day without seeing you." The confession tore from him, raw, unpolished. He had never spoken like this to anyone. Not to his lieutenants. Not to his rivals. Certainly not to himself. Mia reached out hesitant, trembling, and touched his hand. Her fingers were still cold. Vincent closed his own around hers, gentle, careful, as though she might shatter. Lily watched silently, then spoke, voice small but steady. "You're really going to keep us safe?" Vincent met her gaze. "Yes." Lily nodded. Once acceptance, not trust yet, but the beginning of it. The elevator chimed softly. Elena Thompson stepped out, hair disheveled from sleep and haste, coat thrown over pajamas, eyes red from crying. Behind her, Vincent's grandmother, Frail, wrapped in a thick shawl, leaned on Marco's arm. Elena rushed forward. Mia slid off the sofa coat, trailing, and ran into her mother's arms. They clung together, Elena, stroking Mia's hair, murmuring apologies and thanks in the same breath. Vincent stood back, giving them space, though every instinct screamed to step closer. He watched Elena look over Mia's head at him, gratitude, wariness, and something deeper warring in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Vincent inclined his head. "I owe you more than thanks." Elena's gaze softened. "You didn't know. I should have looked harder." The words hung honest, painful. Elena released Mia gently. "She told me, last night, about the car, about what she heard." Vincent nodded. Elena looked at him, really looked. "You're going to change things, aren't you?" Vincent exhaled. "I already have." Outside the city, woke sirens in the distance, horns on Michigan Avenue. Inside the penthouse, quiet held. Vincent stepped into the hallway with Marco. Northside sent a message, Marco said quietly. They want to sit down. Tonight. Vincent's jaw tightened. Tell them noon. Public place. Millennium Park. No weapons. No games. Marco hesitated. They'll test you. With the girls here, they won't touch them, Vincent said, voice low, lethal. Because if they try, they won't walk away. He returned to the living room. Mia had moved to the window, small silhouette against the vast view. She stared at the lake, arms wrapped around herself inside the too big coat. Vincent approached slowly. She looked up when he stopped beside her. It's so big, she whispered. Everything. Vincent followed her gaze. It can feel that way. Mia turned to him, eyes searching. Are you scared? The question surprised him. He considered lying habit, but the truth came instead. Every day, he admitted. Not of the people outside, of failing you, of not being the father you deserve. Mia's eyes filled again. You're here now. Vincent felt the words settle deep, warm, painful healing. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm here, he echoed. And I'm staying. Mia leaned into him, small, tentative. Vincent wrapped an arm around her shoulders, careful, protective. Behind them, Elena watched, tears on her cheeks, but a small smile breaking through. Lily joined them at the window, standing on Mia's other side. The 3 children, 2 biological, 1 chosen, stood together against the glass, looking out at a city that had once ignored them. Vincent felt the weight of it all, the guilt, the remorse, the fierce determination to rewrite every missed day. He held Mia closer, and for the first time in decades, the man who had built an empire of solitude allowed himself to hope that redemption might still be possible, one small, trembling hand at a time. Noon sunlight slanted across Millennium Park in sharp, cold angles. The Cloudgate sculpture, polished chrome, reflecting distorted faces, and sky stood like a silent witness to the meeting that unfolded beneath it. Vincent Moretti arrived alone, coat unbuttoned, hands visible at his sides, no visible security, no entourage, only the quiet certainty of a man who had spent decades turning vulnerability into strength. The North Side representative waited near the bean's curved edge, a wiry man in his 40s named Carlo, flanked by 2 younger enforcers who kept their hands in coat pockets but did not draw. Carlo's smile was thin, practiced. Moretti, he said, you look rested. Family life agrees with you, Vincent stopped 10 feet away. We're here to talk territory, not my personal life. Carlo's eyes flicked past Vincent, searching the crowd, the walkways, the distant bean reflections. Word travels. You've got a kid now. 2, actually. Makes a man cautious. Vincent's voice stayed level. Cautious enough to end this quietly. You push into my restaurants, my roots, you get pushed back. Simple. Carlo laughed softly. Simple, you're distracted. We see it. Everyone sees it. Vincent felt the familiar coil of tension, anger, tempered by something new, fear. Not for himself, for Mia, for Lily. The girls were safe at the penthouse, Marco and 3 others stationed at every entry, but the knowledge that his enemies knew their names made his pulse hammer harder than any street fight ever had. He stepped closer. Last offer. You back off Taylor Street and the West routes. I let your people keep the North warehouses. Clean split. No blood. Carlo considered it genuinely for 3 heartbeats. Then his smile returned. Too late, he said. We already took collateral. Vincent went still. Carlo lifted his phone screen, angled so Vincent could see the live feed. A grainy image, the back of a van. Inside, bound and blindfolded, Lily Alvarez sat rigid against the metal wall. Her braid was frayed. Tears streaked her cheeks. A man's hand held a phone to her ear. Vincent's vision narrowed to a tunnel. The park sounds, children laughing, tourists snapping photos, faded to white noise. Only the feed mattered. Only Lily. Carlo spoke low. Your new daughter's friend. She went out for air. Our guy was waiting. Easy pickup. You want her back. You walk away from everything south of Division. Tonight. Vincent's hands flexed slow, controlled. Inside him, rage and terror collided in a storm so violent it nearly buckled his knees. This was the price of letting people in. This was what happened when a man who had lived alone for decades suddenly cared. He forced his voice steady. Where Carlo named an abandoned warehouse on the south side, isolated familiar territory. 1 hour. Come alone. Or she doesn't walk out. The call ended. Vincent turned coat flaring and walked away without another word. Behind him, Carlo's men watched, smug. He reached the SUV in under 2 minutes. Marco was already behind the wheel, engine running. Southside warehouse, Vincent said. Lily's there. They want the territory. Marco's face hardened. We can call. No calls. No backup. They'll kill her the second they see movement. Vincent slid into the passenger seat. His hands shook not from fear of dying, but from the image of Lily's tear-streaked face burned into his mind. He had promised safety. He had promised. The drive took 27 minutes. The warehouse loomed, rusted steel, broken windows, graffiti tags, faded by years of neglect. 2 cars parked outside. No guards visible. They were confident. Vincent stepped out alone. Coat off. Hands empty. He walked straight to the side door, open, waiting. Inside, dim light filtered through cracked skylights. Lily sat tied to a metal chair in the center of the empty space. Her blindfold had slipped, one eye visible wide with terror. 2 men stood behind her, one holding a phone, the other a length of pipe. Carlo stepped from the shadows. "You came," he said. "Good." Vincent stopped 15 feet away. "Let her go," he said. "You have me. That's what you wanted." Carlo tilted his head. "I want everything. You walk out of Chicago. Leave the girl. Leave the territory. Or she doesn't leave this building." Vincent's gaze locked on Lily. She saw him, really saw him, and something in her expression shifted. Not hope yet. Recognition. Trust fragile but growing. Vincent took 1 step forward. Carlo's man raised the pipe. Vincent spoke quiet, lethal. "You touch her, you die here." Carlo laughed. Big words for a man who's soft now. Vincent moved fast, deliberate. Not toward Carlo. Toward the side wall. He kicked a rusted pallet. It collapsed with a crash, drawing eyes for 1 second. In that second, he closed the distance. He reached Lily, first ripped the ropes with bare hands, pulled her behind him. The pipe came down. Vincent took the blow on his shoulder, pain exploding white-hot. He staggered but did not fall. He shoved Lily toward the open door. "Run." She hesitated. Only a heartbeat, then bolted. Carlo's men lunged. Vincent fought controlled, brutal efficiency born of years in darker places. He disarmed one with a twist, sent the other sprawling with an elbow. No guns. No blood spilled unnecessarily. Just enough to clear the path. Carlo advanced, knife in hand now. Vincent met him. They grappled, grunts, shifting weight the scrape of boots on concrete. Carlo slashed. The blade caught Vincent's forearm, shallow but stinging. Vincent drove a knee into Carlo's stomach, then slammed him against a support beam. Carlo slid down, gasping. Vincent stood over him, breathing hard, blood dripping from his arm onto the dirty floor. "Tell your people," he said. "The line stays where it is." Carlo coughed. "You're finished, Moretti." Words out. "You've gone soft." Vincent looked down at him, cold final. "I've gone something else." He turned. Outside, Lily waited, shaking, tears streaming. She saw him bloodied, coatless, breathing ragged, and ran straight into his arms. Vincent caught her, lifted her off the ground, held her tight against his chest. She buried her face in his shoulder. Small fists clutched his shirt. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Lily shook her head against him. "You came." Vincent carried her to the SUV. Marco waited, door open, engine running. Inside, Mia and Elena sat in the back, faces pale, eyes wide with fear that turned to relief the moment they saw Lily. Mia scrambled forward, arms out. Lily slid from Vincent's hold into Mia's embrace. The 2 girls clung together, sobbing, shaking, safe. Elena reached for Vincent, touched his bleeding arm gently. "You're hurt." Vincent shook his head. Not badly, but inside the pain was deeper, shredding, relentless. He had almost lost her, almost failed again. The guilt roared louder than ever he had brought danger to them. His world, his enemies, had touched what he now cherished most. He slid into the seat beside them. The door closed. Mia looked at him, eyes huge, tear-streaked. "You saved her." Vincent met her gaze. "I had to." Mia reached across the seat, small hand, finding his larger one. She squeezed. Vincent felt the touch like a lifeline. He squeezed back, careful, reverent. The SUV pulled away, leaving the warehouse, the blood, the broken men behind. Inside the vehicle, in the quiet hum of safety, Vincent Moretti sat surrounded by the family he had never known he needed, and felt the last walls of his old life collapse. He looked at Mia, his daughter, then at Lily, his daughter now too, in every way that mattered. And for the first time, the remorse that had gnawed at him for years began to shift, not disappear, but transform into something fierce, protective, unbreakable. He would not fail them again. Not ever. The penthouse lights had dimmed to a soft amber glow by late afternoon. Rain returned in steady sheets against the floor-to-ceiling glass, blurring the lake into a gray smear. Inside, the air carried the faint scent of chamomile tea Elena had brewed for Grandma, and the lingering warmth of chicken broth from lunch. The space felt almost peaceful, almost. Vincent Moretti sat alone in the study door, half open, so he could hear the quiet voices from the living room. Mia and Lily were on the rug near the fireplace, heads bent over a sketch pad Mia had found in a drawer. They drew together simple lines, forming a house, a family, a sun that looked too bright to be real. Elena sat nearby on the sofa, knitting a scarf from yarn Marco had quietly delivered earlier. Grandma dozed in an armchair wrapped in a cashmere throw that cost more than the girls' old winter coats combined. Vincent stared at the open laptop screen. Security footage from the restaurant alley looped silently. The moment the bomb was discovered, the flash of Carlo's phone during the park meeting, the grainy image of Lily bound in the van. He had watched it 3 times already, each viewing carving deeper grooves into the guilt that refused to quiet. His phone buzzed once encrypted message from an old contact in records. He opened it. 1 line, 1 name, Dominic Moretti. Vincent's breath stopped. The file attached was small, scanned documents, grainy photographs, hospital records from 21 years earlier. A car accident report, a death certificate, all forged. Dominic, his younger brother, presumed dead after a violent disagreement over territory and loyalty, had not died. He had vanished. Planned it, paid people to plant evidence. And now he had resurfaced. The final document, a recent surveillance photo. Dominic, older, harder, standing outside a Northside bar Vincent had once owned. The same bar Carlo had used as a staging point for Lily's kidnapping. Vincent's hand trembled as he closed the laptop. The room tilted slightly, not from injury, but from the sudden crushing weight of betrayal renewed. He had mourned Dominic. Buried an empty casket, carried the guilt of their last argument like a stone in his chest for 2 decades. And all that time his brother had lived watching, waiting, orchestrating from the shadows. The assassination attempt, the bomb, Lily's abduction, all threads leading back to the one person Vincent had once trusted most. Remorse twisted into something darker, self-loathing so intense it burned. He had built his empire on the belief that family was sacred, that blood mattered above everything. Yet his own blood had chosen vengeance over forgiveness. And Vincent, arrogant, isolated, Vincent had never looked hard enough to see the lie. He stood, walked to the doorway. Mia looked up from the sketchpad. Her smile faltered when she saw his face. Dad. The word still felt new, precious, fragile. It pierced him now like glass. Vincent forced a small nod. I need to step out for a bit. Elena rose. Vincent, I'll be back before dark, he said quietly. Marco stays here. No one leaves. Mia set the pencil down. Is something wrong? Vincent crossed the room in 3 strides. Knelt beside her, brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. Nothing I can't handle, he lied softly, gently. Stay with your mom. Draw something for me, okay, Mia? Nodded, uncertain but trusting. She leaned forward and hugged him quick, fierce. Vincent held her longer than he meant to, breathing in the clean shampoo scent of her hair, memorizing the small weight of her against his chest. When he released her, Lily watched him with solemn eyes. Be careful, she whispered. Vincent touched her shoulder light, reassuring. I will. He left without another word. The rain had thickened into a cold, driving downpour by the time he reached the old family brownstone on the west side, a place he had not visited in years. The stoop was cracked. Windows boarded on the lower floors. He let himself in with a key he still carried, habit he had never broken. Inside smelled of dust and mildew. The hallway light flickered once, then steadied. Dominic waited in the parlor, same furniture from their childhood, faded velvet and chipped mahogany. He stood near the cold fireplace, arms crossed, face half in shadow. You're early, Dominic said. Vincent stopped in the doorway. You knew I'd come. Dominic's smile was thin, bitter. I counted on it. Vincent stepped forward, slow, deliberate. Why? Dominic's eyes flicked over him, assessing cold. You always thought you were the protector, the one who kept the family together. But you left me to rot in the life you started. When things got hot, you walked away clean. I faked my death to survive. Watched you build your empire. Watched you forget where you came from. Vincent felt the accusation land like a blade. I searched for you. Every year. Every contact. You stopped looking, Dominic said flatly. And then you found a new family. Convenient. Vincent's hands clenched. Mia is my daughter. Lily is hers now, too. They're not leverage. Dominic laughed, short, hollow. They're exactly leverage. You went soft the moment that girl grabbed your sleeve. I saw it. Everyone saw it. Vincent took another step. End this. Whatever grudge you carry, end it with me. Not them. Dominic pulled a small pistol from his coat pocket. Casual, almost lazy. Too late for that. The gun rose. Vincent did not flinch. You won't shoot me, he said quietly. Not here. Not like this. Dominic's hand shook just slightly. You don't know what I'll do anymore. Vincent met his brother's gaze, raw, unguarded. I know you're still the kid who cried when Dad hit Mom. The one who swore we'd never become him. Dominic's face twisted, pain flashing before anger swallowed it. You became him anyway. Vincent exhaled, slow, ragged. Maybe, but I'm trying to stop. Silence stretched thick, painful. Then Dominic lowered the gun barely an inch. Vincent spoke again, voice low, breaking. I mourned you. Every day. I carried that guilt like a chain. If you want to end me, do it. But leave the girls out of it. They've suffered enough because of men like us." Dominic stared at him, long searching. Something cracked in his expression, old grief surfacing through the years of hate. The gun dropped to his side. Vincent stepped closer, slowly, carefully. "Let me take you in," he said. "Not prison. Protection. You disappear again, this time clean. No more shadows." Dominic laughed, bitter, broken. "You think I'd trust you?" Vincent opened his arms, empty, vulnerable. "I'm asking you to." Dominic looked at the gun in his hand, then at his brother. He set the pistol on the mantel, slow, deliberate. Vincent exhaled, shuddering. They stood there, two men who had once shared everything, now separated by decades of pain. Dominic spoke, voice rough. "I watched her grow up. From a distance. Your daughter. She looked like you. Like me. I hated you more for not knowing." Vincent closed his eyes, tears escaping despite himself. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For everything." Dominic nodded once, small, final. "Take me in," he said, "before I change my mind." Vincent stepped forward, embraced his brother. Awkward, fierce 20 years of loss poured into one moment. Outside rain hammered the windows. Inside, two brothers began slowly, painfully, to mend what had been broken. Vincent drove them back to the penthouse in silence. Dominic sat in the passenger seat, hands clasped, staring out at the blurred city. When they stepped through the doors, Mia looked up from the rug. She saw Vincent, blood still crusted on his sleeve, then the man beside him. Her eyes widened. Vincent knelt. "Mia," he said softly, "this is your uncle, Dominic." Mia stared, shock, confusion, wonder chasing across her face. Dominic dropped to one knee, slow, careful. "Hey kid," he said, voice thick. I'm sorry I stayed away." Mia looked from him to Vincent, tears welling. Then she stepped forward, small arms wrapping around Dominic's neck. Dominic froze, then held her, gentle, trembling. Vincent watched, tears falling freely now. The family he thought he had lost forever stood before him, broken, scarred, but together. And in that quiet moment, the remorse that had defined him began finally to ease. Night fell over Chicago, with the sudden heaviness of late October. The penthouse windows reflected only the warm interior lights now. Outside, the city had become a distant glitter of street lamps and moving headlights far below. Inside, the living room felt smaller, cozier than it had in daylight. A low fire crackled behind the glass screen. Elena had made hot chocolate for the girls. The mug still steamed faintly on the coffee table beside half-finished drawings. Grandma slept in the guest room down the hall, her breathing steady for the first time in weeks thanks to fresh medication and clean, warm sheets. Mia and Lily sat cross-legged on the thick rug heads close together, whispering over a new sketch pad. They were drawing the penthouse now, tall windows, a big fireplace, 3 stick figures holding hands. Vincent watched from the armchair, coffee gone cold in his hand. Dominic sat across from him, silent, still adjusting to the surreal calm of being back among family after so many years of shadow. Vincent's forearm was bandaged. The shallow cut from Carlo's knife had been cleaned and stitched earlier by a discreet doctor who asked no questions. The pain throbbed dully, but it was nothing compared to the deeper ache that had settled in his chest since Dominic's confession. Every time he looked at Mia, at her thin wrists, her too large borrowed sweater, the way she still flinched at sudden noises, he felt the weight of every missed year pressing harder. He rose quietly. "I need to check something downstairs," he said. "Won't be long." Mia looked up immediately. "Can I come?" Vincent hesitated. The instinct to shield her, to keep her wrapped in this bubble of safety, was overwhelming. But he saw the quiet plea in her eyes. "Don't leave me behind again." He nodded once. "Just downstairs. Marco's coming too." Mia scrambled up. Lily followed without a word, loyal shadow always close. Dominic stood. "I'll stay with Elena." Vincent met his brother's gaze, gratitude, unspoken understanding. Then he led the girls to the private elevator. The ride down was silent, except for the soft hum of machinery. When the doors opened into the underground garage, the cool air carried the faint smell of concrete and motor oil. Vincent's black SUV waited, polished, unassuming. Marco leaned against it, arms crossed. "Everything quiet?" Vincent asked. Marco nodded. "No movement, but the north side hasn't responded since the warehouse." Vincent opened the rear door for the girls. "Just a quick drive around the block. Make sure no one's lingering." Mia climbed in small, careful. Lily followed. Vincent slid in beside them. Marco took the wheel. The garage doors rolled up. The SUV eased into the rain-slicked street. They had gone 3 blocks when the first car appeared, a dark sedan pulling out from a side alley, headlights off. Then another identical, blocking the intersection ahead. Vincent's hand tightened on the seat. "Marco, I see them." The lead car accelerated straight toward them. Marco swerved, tires screeching on wet asphalt. The SUV fishtailed, then straightened. Behind them, the second car closed the gap. Mia gasped, small, sharp. She grabbed Vincent's sleeve. "Dad, stay down," he said, voice calm, body already shifting to shield both girls. The pursuing car rammed them, hard, deliberate. Metal screamed. The SUV lurched forward. Marco fought the wheel. Vincent unbuckled, moved fast. He pulled Mia and Lily down between the seats, covering them with his body. Another impact, harder. Glass cracked but held. Marco shouted, "They're trying to force us off the road." Vincent's mind raced, cold, clear. This was no random hit. This was Dominic's old network men who had never forgiven, who saw Vincent's new softness as the perfect opening. The SUV skidded around a corner, tires hydroplaning on standing water. Streetlights blurred past in streaks of gold. Mia whimpered, soft, terrified. "I'm scared." Vincent pressed his forehead to hers, brief, fierce. "I know. I've got you." The pursuing car rammed again, side impact this time. The SUV spun once, twice, then slammed into a parked delivery van. Airbags exploded. Metal groaned. Silence, sudden deafening. Vincent's ears rang. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye. He felt Mia trembling beneath him, small body shaking with silent sobs. He lifted his head. Marco was slumped over the wheel, conscious but dazed. The pursuing cars had stopped, doors opening. 4 men stepped out, faces masked, hands empty but ready. Vincent unbuckled the girls, fast, gentle. "Stay behind me," he whispered. He kicked the door open, stepped out into the rain. The lead man, tall-hooded, spoke first. "Moretti, you should have stayed in your tower." Vincent stood, coat-soaked blood mixing with rainwater on his face. "You want me," he said. "Here I am." The man laughed low, ugly. "We want everything. The territory. The power. And we'll start with the kid who made you weak." Vincent felt the words like ice water. Rage surged, pure protective. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate. "You don't touch them." The men advanced. Vincent moved first, fast, brutal. He disarmed the nearest with a twist pipe clattering to the wet pavement. The second swung. Vincent ducked, drove an elbow into ribs. The third lunged. Vincent caught the wrist, twisted until the man dropped to his knees. The fourth hesitated, saw the others down, then turned to run. Vincent let him go. He stood breathing hard, rain streaming down his face, then turned back to the SUV. Mia and Lily were climbing out, shaking wide-eyed. Mia saw the blood on his face, gasped, ran straight to him. Vincent dropped to one knee, arms open. She crashed into him, small body trembling violently. "You're hurt," she sobbed. "You're bleeding." Vincent held her tight, fierce. "I'm okay, I promise." Lily followed slower, but she wrapped her arms around both of them. Vincent felt their small hearts hammering against his chest, felt their fear, their trust, their love. He looked up, rain in his eyes, blood on his shirt, and saw Marco staggering toward them, phone already out. "Police are coming," Marco said. "And our people." 2 minutes. Vincent nodded once. He lifted Mia, carried her back to the SUV, Lily clinging to his side. Inside, he sat between them, arms around both girls, ignoring the pain in his shoulder, the sting of the cut, the blood soaking through his sleeve. Mia touched his face, small fingers gentle on the cut. "You saved us," she whispered. Vincent pressed his lips to her forehead, tears mixing with rain. "You saved me first," he said, voice breaking. "Every day since you grabbed my sleeve." Sirens grew closer, red and blue flashing through the shattered windows. Vincent held them tighter. In that moment, rain, pounding sirens, wailing, blood and tears, and love all tangled together, he understood the truth. He had spent decades running from family was not weakness. It was the only strength that mattered, and he would die before he let anyone take it from him again. Winter arrived quietly in Chicago, the following month, November 2025, bringing the first thin layer of snow that softened the sharp edges of the city. The penthouse windows framed a world now blanketed in white. Lake Michigan looked like hammered steel under the low gray sky. Inside, the air smelled of cinnamon from the apple pie Elena had baked that morning, and the faint pine scent of the small Christmas tree Vincent had insisted on bringing home early. Lights twinkled gently along its branches, simple white strands, nothing ostentatious. The tree stood in the corner near the fireplace, surrounded by wrapped packages that still felt surreal to everyone who lived there now. Vincent Moretti stood at the window, hands in his pockets, watching snowflakes drift past the glass. His left arm still carried a faint scar from the warehouse fight. The stitches were gone, but the pink line remained a quiet reminder. He wore a plain gray sweater today, no suit, no tie. The man who once moved through rooms like a storm now moved softer, slower, as though every step carried the weight of second chances. Mia Thompson, his daughter, sat on the rug with Lily both wrapped in thick blankets. They were sorting through old photographs Vincent had pulled from storage, pictures of him and Dominic as boys, pictures of Elena from years ago, pictures of a life before power and loss had carved deep lines into everyone's faces. Mia held one photo especially carefully, a faded snapshot of Vincent at 18 arm around a younger Dominic, both grinning like the future could still be kind. She looked up at him. "You were happy here." Vincent crossed the room and knelt beside her. "I was. And then I forgot how." Mia reached out, small hand finding his. "You remembered again." Vincent felt the familiar burn behind his eyes. He squeezed her fingers gently. "Because of you." Lily looked between them, quiet, thoughtful. "And because you chose to." The words landed softly but carried weight. Vincent looked at Lily, really looked, and saw not just Mia's best friend, but a second daughter in every way that mattered. He opened his other arm. Lily hesitated only a heartbeat before leaning in. Vincent wrapped both girls close, two small hearts beating against his chest. Elena watched from the kitchen doorway, arms folded, eyes shining. She had cried less these past weeks, not from sadness, but from the slow realization that safety could last. Grandma sat nearby in her favorite armchair, knitting quietly, a small smile on her face every time she glanced at the children. Vincent spoke, voice low, steady. "I've spent most of my life thinking power meant being untouchable, alone, safe from pain." He paused. "I was wrong. Pain found me anyway. But so did love. And love is stronger." Mia lifted her head. "Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts," Vincent answered, "because that's when you know it's real." He looked around the room at the tree, at the photographs, at the family he had almost lost before he knew he had it. "I'm retiring," he said quietly. "The restaurants stay. The legitimate businesses stay. Everything else, the shadows, the deals, the nights I can't talk about, ends today." Elena stepped forward. "You're sure?" Vincent met her gaze. "I've never been more sure of anything." Mia's voice came small but clear. "What will you do instead?" Vincent smiled. Small, real. "I'm going to be here. For school plays. For late-night talks. For hot chocolate and snow days. For all the things I missed." Lily whispered. "You'll be at my parent-teacher conference." Vincent nodded. "Every single one." The room filled with a quiet that felt sacred, condensed stillness in which years of absence began to heal. Later that evening after dinner, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans cooked the way Grandma liked, Vincent gathered everyone in the living room again. He had one final gift. He handed Mia and Lily each a small velvet box. Inside were two identical pendants, simple silver hearts, engraved with their initials, and the word family on the back. Mia lifted hers with trembling fingers. "It's beautiful." Vincent knelt. "It's a promise. No matter what happens, good days, hard days, snowy days, sunny days, I'm yours. Always." He fastened the necklace around Mia's neck, then Lily's. Both girls touched the pendants, small, reverent. Vincent stood, looked at Elena. "And you," he said softly, "you gave me the greatest gift I never knew I needed. Thank you for raising her, for surviving when I wasn't there." Elena's eyes filled. "We survived together," she said. "And now we live together." Vincent pulled her close, gentle, careful. She rested her head against his chest. Dominic watched from the doorway, still adjusting to light instead of shadow. He met Vincent's eyes. Nodded once. Forgiveness did not erase pain, but it made room for something better. Outside snow continued to fall, soft, relentless, covering every scar the city carried. Months later, spring 2026, the Mia and Lily Community Center opened in Little Italy. A modest brick building with wide windows, colorful murals on the walls, and a playground in the back. Inside, free after-school tutoring, warm meals, art classes, language lessons, a quiet corner for parents to rest. Vincent had funded it entirely, no strings, no name on the plaque except the girls. He spent most afternoons there, now helping with homework, reading stories, listening to children who reminded him of who he used to be. One afternoon, Mia and Lily sat on the steps outside, sharing a popsicle. Vincent joined them, sitting on the cold concrete without hesitation. Mia leaned against him. "I used to sell bracelets on the sidewalk. I was so cold." Vincent wrapped an arm around her. "I know." Lily looked up at him. "Now we have a place where no kid has to be cold alone." Vincent nodded, throat tight. That's the lesson we all needed. He looked out at the playground, children laughing, running safe. And in that moment he understood knowledge grows when we see each other clearly. Lesson after lesson teaches us that compassion costs nothing but pride. Education of the heart begins the day we choose love over power. Knowledge of real strength lies in protecting the vulnerable. Lesson upon lesson reminds us that family is built, not inherited. Education in kindness changes everything. Knowledge of our shared humanity heals old wounds. Lesson by lesson, we learn that wealth means nothing without care. Education of empathy bridges every divide. Vincent kissed the tops of their heads, first Mia, then Lily. "I love you both," he said simply. They smiled, small, bright, certain. "We love you too, Dad." To everyone watching this video, may you enjoy good health, a joyful life, and daily peace. Take care of yourselves and the people around you. If this story touched you, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that love sees no color, no wealth, no poverty, only hearts. Drop a comment below. How did this story make you feel? Does it connect to something in your own life? Share your emotions. I read every single one, and I'm listening from deep within my heart to yours. See you again in the next video. Take care. Disclaimer. All stories on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.